Around the third or fourth week of December, many people discuss making resolutions for the new year. These resolutions could involve breaking old habits, learning new habits, transforming one's life, learning new skills, and so on. They are usually enthusiastic about their proposed goals and driven to do them once it is January. But after March, the enthusiasm begins to wane. As for a few others with more motivation, it could take until June or July to revert to their old habits, or lose interest in learning what they were excited about learning, or give up on transforming their lives. This is for those who even push themselves to an extent. Many others give up on their resolution after the second week of January, yet a few more do nothing. They do a lot of talking without action. This happens so often that I began to hear some guests on radio presentations criticize people who talk about making New Year resolutions and advise that it's seemingly futile to do so. They probably convinced people to stop making resolutions, as I have not heard many people speak about making New Year's resolutions for a while now. Why do people set their minds towards something but never follow through with it? They had the drive, the motivation, the enthusiasm, but they still didn't accomplish their goals. Why do people procrastinate? Do they lack discipline, or were they doing a lot of talking to impress people? Perhaps. But we can only really know if we could get these people to tell us honestly and then relate what they say to their behavior, character, and attitude to life. Even with that, I do not believe we can reach a satisfactory conclusion because human beings tend to find it difficult to admit their flaws and weaknesses in various aspects of their personalities. I understand that some people set goals and speak about these resolutions to motivate people around them. It's a possibility that these people will give up on their goals when they realize that the motivator himself has lost his drive. In other cases, some may accomplish the goals despite the motivator losing his drive. Irregularities in scenarios like these are true, and I have witnessed them. Some might want to argue that if people knew who they truly were, or what their purpose in life was, then they would know what to aim for and stick with it because they have found their purpose. It is challenging to know what one's unique purpose in life is. Many have figured out what unique talents they were born with. Many more have developed new skills that they get particularly good at. Many more have been unable to determine if they have talents, skills, or a purpose. While some people have been able to make a living using their God-given gifts or talents, many more have been unable to do the same. If they tried to, they would starve because no job pays anything or enough for their talents. This is probably one of the many reasons people end up in jobs that they hate. When their alarm rings in the morning, they dread getting out of bed because it's another day of horror going to a job that they would rather stay away from, but they have to go to because they have a family to care for. It is unfortunate because people are more productive when they carry out functions that they find joy in doing and are very good at. The best results are achieved when their mind, heart, and soul are into what they are doing. Would the world be happier if most people worked jobs aligned perfectly with their purpose? I am confident that it would be, but only when we stop trying to replace God with our egos. This is where the problem comes from. Many achieve success in their careers using their talents, but when you spend time with them, you realize that they are more miserable now they have found success than before they achieved their goals. How could this be when they have achieved what many cannot achieve? Despite their enviable status, they still feel empty. This sounds like a mystery, but could it be that it is this way because they have rejected the source of the solution? God. To help you understand what I am getting at, envision buying a new sophisticated printer. This printer can do many things when connected to your laptop, but there is a catch. 15 years ago, you would require a cable to connect your laptop to your printer before you could print anything. But this new printer doesn't come with a cable. It requires a wireless connection to your laptop. You are stuck now because while this printer can do wonderful things, you have no clue how to get it to do any of them. The only way to solve this problem is to read the manual that came with the printer, which the creators of this printer provided. They require you to install the driver for the printer on your laptop, then turn on the wireless dial on both the laptop and the printer so they can connect and print the documents on your laptop. In this analogy, consider yourself the printer, the creators of the printer to be God, the printer's functions, your God-given talents. Your cluelessness in getting it to work is your difficulty in discerning your purpose. The wireless connection is your way of life aligned with God's will. The driver installed on your laptop is the natural law written in the hearts of men, which is animated when you follow your purpose and serve that person. And the manual is the discovery of your purpose. The laptop is everyone you interact with. As a faithful, practicing Christian, you have the edge over those who do not practice the faith and those who reject the faith or do not know the faith. You did not create yourself. God created you, so you must pray to Him for guidance. This is when you exercise your faith in God. The next thing you must do is to obey His commandments in your interactions with your fellow men. These are your works in motion animated by your faith in God. For if you do not interact in charity with your fellow man, how could you discern how helpful you could be in your role in your life? How do you discover where in life you are most needed? How do you realize the gifts you always had but never knew you had? How do you discover the path God has been nudging you to? Since you ought to know by now that God will not reveal your path all at once to you, as this will confuse you, overwhelm you, and probably discourage you. You could feel discouraged if God has big plans for you, plans you consider too great for little old you to accomplish. Yet you can do so, but if you walk with God. A classic example is the late Mother Angelica, the founder of EWTN. She became a nun and probably believed that was her only purpose in life. She was plagued with various ailments and lost her ability to walk. So she made a promise to God that if she were able to walk again, she would build a monastery. This did not end there. She got the call to do even greater things. She converted the small garage of the monastery into what will become a television station. With no experience in telecommunication, administration, or running a television station, and with only $200 in her pocket, she opened the biggest Catholic television station in the world that opened a radio station with multiple affiliates all over the United States. I am confident that she didn't have a clue that this was her purpose in life. She probably thought her purpose was to live a quiet life as a nun. Indeed, it was, but that was just a junction on her journey to her entire purpose. She got plagued with ailments, which motivated her to make a promise to God to build a monastery if she was able to walk again. This monastery's garage was the vehicle to what would launch her true purpose. We can learn from her story that when we meet difficulties on the quest to find our purpose, rather than give up, we commit the difficulty to God and He will guide us. That difficulty has its purpose in your life, to lead you to fulfilling your purpose. You must also learn to detach yourself from your ego and learn humility. When you stop trying to achieve everything on your own as though you do not need God, it will be easier to figure out your purpose. Consider Matthew chapter 11, 28 to 30. Come to me, all of you who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke and put it on you, and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest. For the yoke I will give you is easy, and the load I will put on you is light. When you take Jesus up on his word, surrender to his command, and learn to depend on him and not solely on yourself, you will set goals and achieve them as Mother Angelica did. Remain united to me, and I will remain united to you. A branch cannot bear fruit by itself. It can do so only if it remains in the vine. In the same way, you cannot bear fruits unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me, and I in them, will bear much fruit, for you can do nothing without me. Whoever does not remain in me is thrown out like a branch and dries up. Such branches are gathered up and thrown into the fire, where they are burnt. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, then you will ask for anything you wish, and you will have it. My Father's glory is shown by your bearing much fruit, and in this way you become my disciples. I love you just as the Father loves me. Remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. Many may not have realized this, but while people spend most of their lives trying to figure out what their purpose in life is, Jesus already told us about our purpose in life in the Gospels, and it is in keeping the commandments. Jesus answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the most important commandment. The second most important commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. The whole law of Moses and the teachings of the prophets depend on these two commandments." What is your purpose? If you are a teacher, you must love God by caring for your students that he has entrusted to you, by teaching them the truth and helping them with the knowledge that will enable them to succeed. When you do so, you love your neighbors, your students. Are you a doctor? You must love God by caring for the patients in your hospital and doing all within your knowledge and ability to help them improve. Give them the proper prescription and the right care, and if their case is beyond you, refer them to the right doctor who can help them. When you do this, you love your neighbor, your patients. Are you a film producer? Then for the love of God, make movies that would not pollute the hearts and minds of your viewers. Make movies that will not disrupt their spiritual lives and connection to God. When you do this, you love your neighbors, your audience. Do you find yourself in a situation, as I have, where you end up in professions that have nothing to do with what you studied at the university, college, or polytechnic? Remember that no knowledge is lost. Look at these as gems or tools you will eventually need to exercise your purpose in life fully. Remember that even as a teacher, a doctor, a film producer, or one compelled to work outside of your field of study, your true purpose possibly transcends these professions, as they might be vehicles leading you to your final destination. We can think of this with any profession. We have heard about the creators of apps on our computers and cell phone devices that market them to your children, but would not let their children use them because they are aware that these apps affect children negatively. They are selfish and have no love for their neighbors and no fear or love of God, because they have made themselves slaves of money. You will feel empty despite your financial success when you act like these people who do not love God and their neighbors. But when you love God and your neighbor, when you carry out your function, the world gets to be a happier place to live in, and people live better. You reap the dividend of aligning your purpose with the will of God. You feel fulfilled, and when you set goals, you accomplish them. As we enter the new year and you decide on your New Year's resolutions, always remember that your purpose is to love God with your entire self and your neighbor as yourself by serving one another through your gifts.